The Bulgarian far right, just like its counterparts also in other parts of Europe, aims to undermine all common European policies. First of all, they repeat the so-called peace claim. They argue that they are in favor of peace, but of course, peace on Russia's terms.
And it's quite important, actually. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian society does not know much about Bulgarian military aid. Bulgaria secretly helped Ukraine in spring of 2022 when Ukraine army was in dire need of ammunition and fuel.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Centre and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. And I'm your host, Matt Wickham. And in this episode, we discuss how Russian propaganda is infiltrating the information space in Bulgaria and Romania. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and don't forget to press subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos in the future. Rumena Filipova, Ph.D. and Chairperson and co-founder at Institute for Global Analytics, addresses a far-right political party in Bulgaria named Revival, who is noteworthy for its Eurosceptic and anti-Ukraine stances. It actively seeks to undermine Ukraine's potential EU membership, and when it comes to NATO, the party's rhetoric has been increasingly aggressive, even suggesting Bulgaria should exit the alliance. She also tells about how the party also exploits fears about Bulgaria's potential direct involvement in Russia's war in Ukraine and the negative impact of Russian sanctions and what it could do to the Bulgarian economy. Let's take a listen in full.
I'm going to situate the attempts to undermine Ukraine's European integration in the wider political, social, and media context in Bulgaria, which unfortunately is conducive to actually enabling these undermining processes. As regards the political context first, there are two parties in particular that stand out and which are not friendly to Ukraine's cause, but they're also quite Eurosceptic. So first of all, I would definitely like to highlight the positions of Revival, which is far right pro-Russian party in Bulgaria. In general, it aims to undercut Bulgaria's EU membership by calling for initiatives that quote unquote renegotiating the terms of Bulgaria's EU membership, whatever that renegotiation might mean. In the Bulgarian far right, just like its counterparts also in other parts of Europe, aims to undermine all common European policies and all decision making which is taken in concert with other EU member states. So, therefore, Revival has firmly come up against the initiative to introduce quality majority voting and remove the veto power of member states, which of course would be very helpful to overcome the obstacles introduced by such countries as Hungary, as we saw quite recently, that they can undermine the whole of the EU's common policy. So there may be consensus among all of the other 26 member states, but this imposition of the veto undermines the whole position of the European Union, which might unfortunately happen also with regards to enlargement. Secondly, the second issue area in which the Revival is quite active has been a very vociferous campaign against the introduction of the euro in Bulgaria through the propagandist claim that it will lead to economic impoverishment and infringement on national sovereignty. So these are examples of two concrete ways in which Revival attempts to undermine the whole of Bulgaria's position within the European Union and, in concert with other far right parties, the shared policies of EU countries in general. Now, as regards NATO, there the rhetoric is even more outrightly aggressive in that revival has called and actually mounted an initiative for an exit referendum from the alliance. Now, these Eurosceptic and NATO skeptic discourses are matched by anti-Ukrainian messaging, which is some of the most virulent in Bulgaria. So, first of all, they repeat the so-called peace claim. They argue that they're in favor of peace, but of course, peace on Russia's terms, as they understand it. Also, they have taken up the topic of the so-called dispatch of troops to Ukraine, pandering to fears about the fact that Bulgaria might become directly involved in the war. In, Also, they have repeatedly, since the beginning of the invasion of Russia of Ukraine in 2022, uh, spoken about the supposedly insidious effect of sanctions on Russia on the Bulgarian economy. So, these are the overall elements of the far right discourse, which is both anti European and also anti Ukrainian.
Igor Fedyk, head of the Southeastern European section at the New Geopolitics network, explained that Bulgaria is often identified as being on the front line of hybrid warfare due to its deep historical, cultural, religious, and economic ties with Russia. These connections allow Russia to exert significant influence, leading Bulgarian voters to often choose pro-Russian politicians. He also noted Bulgaria's considerable potential for military aid to Ukraine, as it was once tasked with producing Soviet ammunition as a member of the Warsaw Pact. Let's take a listen in full to see what he has to say.
In the country itself, they don't stop repeating at different levels, from the state leadership to non-governmental organizations and media. The country is at the front line of the Russian hybrid warfare against Europe. And this is true, and it's also obvious for me as a foreigner in this country. The reason for that is that the bilateral Bulgarian-Russian historical, cultural, religious, and economic ties. And Russia, due to this, Russia still, unfortunately for this country, for this beautiful country, still manages to exert a significant influence on various spheres of life of it. The consequence of this is that voters under the influence of Russian propaganda, they go to the polling stations and make the choice in favor of pro-Russian politicians. Fortunately, so far, the number in the parliament does not allow them to significantly influence Bulgaria's position towards Ukraine, as well as towards two organizations which Bulgaria is part of, European Union and NATO. However, the increase may lead to negative changes in this matter. As for the propaganda disinformation itself, one of the main tools of the Russian hybrid warfare against Bulgaria, it's often is nothing else than information and psychological operations. And a special place in this operation is given to Ukraine and Russian aggression against it. So Russia's anti-Ukrainian activities in the information space of Bulgaria began to gain momentum after Russia annexed Crimea and occupied parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions in 2014, but significantly increased after February 24, 2022. And the main goals of the Russian anti-Ukrainian propaganda and disinformation in Bulgaria are to discredit Ukraine, its political leadership and armed forces, as well as to oppose Bulgaria's support for our country, from military aid to the process of European integration. And why the developments in Bulgaria, especially regarding Russian activities in it, are so important for Ukraine? Because Bulgaria is one of the countries that support Ukraine. And it's quite important, actually. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian society does not know much about Bulgarian military aid. To a larger extent, it's due to the fact that aid is not public. A little light on how important the Bulgarian aid was shed by the Die Welt's publication titled "The Country That Secretly Saved Ukraine," in which was written that Bulgaria secretly helped Ukraine in spring of 2022 when Ukraine army was in dire need of ammunition and fuel. Another important thing that Bulgaria has a serious potential for military aid to Ukraine. Being once the part of the Warsaw Pact, the main task of Bulgaria was to the production of ammunition, and thus Bulgaria became the largest producer of Soviet ammunition outside the Soviet Union. In practice, this means that Bulgaria has now both large production facilities and stocks in warehouses. In addition to ammunition, Bulgaria can also transfer a sufficient number of weapons and military equipment to Ukraine, such as, for example, anti-tank guns, self-propelled mortars, self-propelled howitzers, anti-tank systems, man-pads, tanks, and even air defense systems. And another important point is that the potential Bulgarian defense industry for bilateral military technical cooperation with Ukraine. So the joint activities with foreign partners in which part of the technologies and personnel could be moved on a permanent or temporary base to safe production sites are very important for Ukraine today. And such sites as an option can be located in Bulgaria. As you see, the significance of aid and support from Bulgaria to Ukraine are quite important and relevant.
He then provides recommendations on how to strengthen the fight against Russia's hybrid influence in the country. Let's take a listen.
It should be understood that if Bulgarian political elites don't have the understanding that Russian propaganda and disinformation pose a real threat to the nation's security and public welfare of the country, and if they don't have the political will to implement the recommendation that will be mentioned a bit later, Russia will continue to effectively implement on Bulgarian territory its harmful informational influence. As for Ukraine, what could be done to strengthen its presence in the information space of Bulgaria? I think, for example, could be the activation of bilateral relations at both the state and non-governmental levels, strengthening improving the quality of informational component of work of Ukrainian diplomatic institutions accredited in Bulgaria. Also, expansion of cooperation between media of Ukraine and Bulgaria, and conducting events in Bulgaria aimed at providing the Bulgarian society with true information about Ukraine and forming a positive attitude towards Ukraine and Ukrainians in it.
You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Unraveling course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description of this video, you can find more information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!